Good morning guys, and firstly welcome back to my channel. This video is basically going to be a sit down. It's my 5 things to ... So today it's going to be about growing your glutes. Obviously last week, I'll pop it here, I did about 5 things to know before starting your fat loss journey, and today I just wanted to kind of touch on glute growth as a whole, and just kind of actually talk about glute growth. I've done it previously in terms of on my Instagram. I've touched on kind of glute growth on my YouTube previously before, but I want to go into a little bit more depth and kind of basis obviously on my 5 top tips. So we're going to be going through training, nutrition, etc. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and if there's any more kind of these 5 top tips you want to see, please comment them down below. I do them once a week, so probably Sundays, and then my full day of eating is my Wednesday upload. So turn those notifications on, and let's get into the video. So I'm first off going to post, here's my kind of like transformation. These are my kind of like photos before and kind of current. I'm not gonna say after because I'm still working on kind of my goal, but they're kind of like my photos. So number 1 is food. You need to make sure you're eating enough food, and that is the key here. No deficit, literally no deficit. Of course, if you're wanting to lose fat, focus on that fat loss goal. Once you've achieved that fat loss goal, move on to kind of growing the glutes. But in order to kind of grow those glutes, you need to be eating food, and this is not kind of 1,200 calories. It's not going to cut it. For myself, and remember this is kind of personalized to myself, I, of course, was kind of sitting around the 3,500 calorie mark. Of course, yes, this is quite high because it is, but that is just me and my body. Of course, having enough protein, but there's a stage of having too much protein. You don't want to have too much protein. You also need to make sure you've got a good balance of those carbs and fats. At the end of the day, carbs are going to give you the energy, push you in those training sessions. I know it can be very kind of daunting if you're seeing those kind of scales increase, but at the end of the day, you're wanting to grow muscle. I'm not saying you need to be eating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds extra. You just need to be kind of in a gradual surplus. You can of course stay at maintenance and kind of grow, but yes, it does take longer. Very easy to say, and a lot of people feel like yes, they are eating enough. If you're not sure, track your food. So on MyFitnessPal, literally for a couple of days, if there's a week maybe, track what you're eating, like literally everything, including your drinks. Like things like, let's say hot chocolate, like with obviously has kind of like milk in it, or teas, anything like that. Track those things so you can actually see how much you're eating, if it's consistent. And then you can also track alongside that your kind of weight. And if your weight obviously is staying the same, you're at maintenance. If it's decreasing, obviously you know you're in a deficit. And if it's increasing, you know you're in a surplus. So it's one of those things that you can yourself monitor. Give it a week or 2 to actually see kind of how obviously things are changing. A lot of the time people think they're eating more than they actually are, or alternatively there's the way of actually people think they're kind of eating less because they're having things, let's say like sauces, obviously things like mayonnaise, anything like that has calories. As much as kind of we wish it didn't, it has calories, and it obviously, like, it's food at the end of the day. Okay, number 2, I feel like I say this one quite regularly as well as number 1, progressive overload. Like, this is so key. So I'll give an example because I feel like if I give an example, it's a little bit easier to understand. So let's say as an example, you are doing 50 kilo hip thrust for your rep range in your workout program that you're keeping the same and you're progressively overloading on is 8 to 12 reps. So let's say you're doing 50 kilos for 8 reps. You want to ideally that week after or the week after that be pushing up to like 9 kind of reps or 10 reps with obviously good form and good tempo. Is so key to kind of never compromise the form and tempo. At the end of the day, you do not want to compromise that. Once you've hit that top rep range, push the weight up, push up to 55 kilos and repeat that cycle. It's that kind of constant cycle of wanting to push yourself a bit further. So for example, what have I recently done? Let's say RDLs. With kind of, I've got paused dumbbell RDLs. So I started at 27.5, I think it was. It's like got a 2-second pause at the bottom, so 27.5 on 2 dumbbells on each dumbbell. I've then the week after kind of pushed up the weight to 30 kilos, and I've got obviously now got to stick to that weight and get those reps up. And it's that continuous kind of focusing on pushing yourself more, and that's why those logging the lifts is key, so you can actually see if you are progressing and kind of pushing up in kind of the weight or reps. Of course, you can't expect to push up every single week. It's not going to happen. For example, lateral raises, the worst exercise to progress in, I swear. Like, I am stuck between the 5 and the 7.5. It doesn't change. So just kind of be aware you're not going to progress in every single exercise and kind of every week, but as long as you're going in the session with actually you are wanting to progress, you're wanting to push yourself, then brilliant. Okay, so number 3, this is kind of linked to the training aspect again. You do not need to spend hours doing glute activations and glute finishes, and this this literally is so important to understand. So if you are doing, let's say, an hour of glute activation, you are just going to fatigue yourself. If you find that glute activation, you feel good from doing it, do some, but don't do hours and hours. Like, don't. Instead, actually, for your hip thrust, if you've got, let's say, 3 sets, do kind of a couple of sets before, but only like 2 or 3 reps to get that weight up to obviously the loading set, your heaviest set. At the end of the day, you don't want to be kind of fatiguing yourself with kind of those warm-up sets. Let's say you've got you're training 4 days per week. How I would kind of split it up with kind of my training is you could do 2 kind of leg days. You could do a glutes and hamstrings day, you could do a quad focus day, you could then do an upper body focus day and a posterior chain day. And that kind of is the key there, where people are always like kind of, I really want to train glutes really frequently. Well, if your actually training intensity is there, you are not going to want to train glutes that frequently. I haven't trained 5 days a week in a long time. When I did, like, my recovery was just not there. Like, I wasn't recovering enough. I enjoyed it, but now I've kind of done 4 days per week. I love it. Like, I literally love 4 days a week. I find I've got kind of a rest day. Like, for example, today's a rest day. I trained 2 days in a row. I did my legs and then my upper body, rest day, and then I'll go again, and then another rest day, and I'll go again, etc. Okay, this actually leads on to points number 4. So obviously I was touching on kind of not training glutes 4 or 5 times a week. Prioritize recovery, and this is so important. This is so overlooked the majority of the time. You need sleep. You need to make sure you're actually resting. Go and stretch. Go and do something different. Like, I'm really focusing on my sleep right now because I pushed it to the side completely, and I was finding that I was fatigued. My sessions were not progressing. I just didn't feel great, and my digestion was still good. That was fine, but just general mood, like actually like waking up, I was having to lay in for an extra half an hour because I'd snooze my alarm, which is so unlike me. Like, on prep, I was flying up at 5 a.m. I was up. Number 5, this literally is repeated as well, but this is so important. Time and consistency. Literally time and consistency. So as I showed you, like, obviously this is my like starting and this is current. You can see that it's taken me time. It's not happened in 6 weeks. It has taken me years, like literally years. There's a journey. At the end of the day, there is literally a journey, and I'll kind of post the different journeys along here where you can see that kind of I've bulked, I've cut, I've bulked, I've cut. And obviously I did maintain, like I have maintained post-prep, and now kind of I'm back obviously in a cutting phase, a very gradual one. Rome was not built in 4 weeks. It takes such a long time to grow muscle, and you can't rush the process. I wish there was, like, I wish there was a way to rush it. You literally cannot rush it. You have to give that journey time. I have actually set myself some non-negotiables now, where basically I was finding myself, I was getting a little bit lazy in the sense of I was prioritizing other things, not kind of my own goals, you could say. I wasn't prioritizing what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to do, and I was in this kind of, I was in like a weird place where it was literally at the back of my head. I didn't care about my kind of anything. I didn't care about my sleep, didn't care about my training so like my nutrition. I've got myself these non-negotiables, but I'm getting my steps in. I've got to hit 11k steps daily. And then the other one as well is straight after my training, I must do my cardio. So cardio was the one thing that I was actually really getting lazy with. So I would leave it until Sunday. I was doing an hour per week. I would literally leave it till Sunday every single week. And every week I would sit on that bike downstairs and be like, what am I doing? Like, why do I keep doing this? And why can't I get myself out of this habit? So I literally had to give myself the biggest kick up the bum and go, right, come on, you've got to kind of get back into a routine. And I knew I can do it. It's actually just actioning that. Yeah, that is literally a huge non-negotiable, the steps and also my cardio straight after, and also my food. Actually getting organized and kind of making sure that I am not I wouldn't say deviating. I've never really deviated. I'm fine with food, but it's one of those things that I need to get organized with it, because I'll very easily just sit and work and kind of just forget about, like, eat my breakfast, and then lunch, it gets 3 o'clock and I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I need to eat. And obviously I've got a lot of calories, so I've now been spreading them out again throughout the day properly and getting very organized. So let me round up. I always write my notes of the points I want to say, just so I can make sure kind of it is constructed well. So of course the point number 1 was eat. You need to be in no deficit. Number 2 was that progressive overload and training of those glutes, obviously focusing on pushing the weight up with good form, good tempo. 3 was training the glutes and not obviously going crazy with your glute activations, glute finishes, etc. 4, sleep and recovery and stretching. 5, time and consistency. So that is my kind of 5 tips for growing the glutes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it was useful. I will catch you in the next video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe, and I will catch you next week.